Welcome to the WarCast, your geopolitical briefing that tells you what you need to know when you need to know it. The WarCast is for War on the Rocks members only. Spread the word and tell your friends and colleagues to sign up at warontherocks.com/subscribe.
I'm speaking to Gilead Sher, the former chief of staff of the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and chief negotiator during the time when Israel and the Palestinians perhaps came the closest to a peace settlement. Gilead, what was the reaction in Israel to President Trump's visit?
Well, I think that the visit was all about making sure that Israel feels good about its being the most important ally of the United States, respect for the Jewish people and the achievements of the State of Israel up to now. But unfortunately, no concrete steps to be detailed ahead in terms of not mentioning the two-state for two-people solution, not mentioning any kind of process that would be launched or relaunched in terms of peace process between the Israelis and the Palestinians. But this might come later on.
Do you think Prime Minister Netanyahu preferred that President Trump not lay out a specific process? Do you feel like the president was trying to defer to how Netanyahu wanted to play this?
Sure. I believe that Netanyahu definitely did not want any specifications of the way forward unless they are prior to detailing them in public, being discussed and agreed upon between Jerusalem and Washington. And I believe that this played quite well for Netanyahu and for the supporters of the right in Israel, because he does not require any change in terms of the current policy of more or less sit and do nothing.
After all this time and all that's happened, do you think a two-state solution is still the right framework? Do you think it's still possible?
Definitely, it's possible. It's doable, but it requires determination and understanding that this is the only way to preserve the conditions for a Jewish democratic Israel, for Israel being the nation state of the Jewish people, and for a self-determination for the Palestinians. The question is, how do we get there? How do we resolve the core issues that are the contentious issues in the Israeli-Palestinian context, in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? And the way forward requires at least two main parameters. The first is a differentiation between the large major settlement blocks comprising about 80% of the settlers to date, and the ones that are adjacent to the Green Line, the ones that would be eventually, under any agreement, under any arrangement, would become part and parcel of Israel. Differentiation between these, as well as the Jewish neighborhoods of Jerusalem, that will become eventually incorporated within the boundaries of Israel. So differentiate between these and the rest of the West Bank, where the isolated settlements are, where about 100,000 settlers do live currently. And once you do that, there should be a clear distinction between policies that are applied here and there. That's number one. Number two is to allow for a much more non-exclusive process that does not only relate to the resolution of all the core issues simultaneously, namely Jerusalem, refugees, territory boundaries, and of course security, but more inclined towards a transitional or interim-related or gradual process that combines both the regional outlook and the bilateral negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. And adding to that, an encouragement for independent, constructive steps that Israelis and Palestinians could take, disregarding the movement forward in either the regional track or the bilateral one.
Given that negotiations that have come even remotely close to succeeding in the past have required a steady and engaged hand in the White House, do you think the current U.S. president, who prides himself as being a sort of master deal maker, is the right man to help see this forward and help make this happen?
Well, Ryan, he could be. He could be. He is well positioned with the carrot and the stick of a businessman in his hands. And the question is whether the domestic concerns that he has and other pressing international issues would not take too large a part in his attention span. And the other question is, would he be able to stay the whole course hands-on on this process? One good news is that he started quite at the outset of his presidency with this particular issue on the table. And the fact of the matter is that the first visit abroad is a visit in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Palestinian territories, which I think emphasizes the importance that he gives to that particular issue and this particular challenge at this point in time in his presidency.
As someone who's been a consumer and close observer of Israeli intelligence, what was your reaction? What sort of reactions are you hearing to reports that Trump supposedly shared Israeli intelligence with Russia without Israel's authorization, and then during the visit actually seemed to be the first U.S. official to openly confirm that it was Israeli intelligence? What was your reaction, the reaction of some of your colleagues?
Well, we definitely didn't like it. I think that it had a certain chilling effect on the relationship between the two intelligence communities that are superb relationship for since ever, and are in very close cooperation. I believe that he did not cause a major political crisis, but it shouldn't be repeated.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the WarCast. We'll hope to have you back on the show at some point in the future.
Thank you. All the best.
Have a great day. Bye.